Hello and welcome to another lesson in our VBA programming. And in this lesson, we're going to continue with our user form we started in the previous lessons like this. So in our previous lessons, we drag and drop all these labels, text fields, as well as the buttons. So now in this lesson, we're going to just write the codes behind them to be able to search, reset, close, delete, update, and also add and save data. It's going to be very simple, straightforward, and fun. Okay, I'm going to explain every single line of code for you to understand. It's going to be very interesting. Okay, and now if you haven't watched our previous tutorials, please just check the links in the video description below. We have all the links below. You can just check out the links and have access to the previous tutorials, and make sure to follow from the first lesson to the current lesson we are on now, and that is how you'll be able to understand every single thing that we've done so far. Okay, now also if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon so that you can receive notifications anytime we upload new tutorials. Now let's quickly delve right into today's lessons. Thank you. Hello and welcome to another lesson in our VBA training. And in this lesson, we're going to look at or work around the search, update, close, and then reset buttons. So let's dive right in. Open our project. Good. Alt F11. We have already worked around the add button without any problem. So we move on towards search. We want to search our data. Okay, so let's do that. What I want you to know is this: we can only search within the data that is already that exists in our data set. So here there is no data here, so we can't search for anything here. Let's bear it in mind with that. And whenever we click on the search, we want to return. Let's say we are searching for Lami. If we search, we want to search using the name. If we type Lami and we click on search, we want to return Lami's ID, her name, email, and then the class, all in what? The various text boxes. That is that. The ID, the full name, gender, and class. We want to return that in what? The text boxes. And certain condition must be met before that happens. Let's bear it in mind like that. Let's go back to our source code. Let's click on it. So we need the search bar and then the search button. Okay, so to do that, I just select this and then Control C to Control V to paste, and then we use it as our search bar. Let me call it that way. Put it here like this. Good. And this text box, what? 3. Take note of that. Okay. Now we need our search button, so we can just select this, Control C, Control V to paste. Call it what? Search. Okay, let me just maintain the shape to search. Okay, so that is that. I want to write the macros for it, so we just double click it and then in between here you can see the subroutine is already created. Private sub command button 1. Okay, we don't want this name command button 1. We have to rename it. So let's go back, select it, and then select it, and you come here, we say what? CMD search. Perfect. CMD search. So we have that. Let's double click it now. You can see that the name has changed. Private sub CMD search. Now we now know what the subroutine or the sub procedure is all about. It's for what? Searching data. Now we need to dimension 2 variables, that is x and y, and we've already done that. So let's just select from here and I'll explain. Okay. Okay, let's just select it from here. Control C to copy. We come here. Control V to what? Paste. But then our Y is equally going to be what? As long. Also going to be holding a number. And then the X is going to what? Hold the row with data. So this syntax here is a row without data, because +1 means move to the next row without data. Okay, so we clear the +1. We now have a row without what? Sorry, with what? Data, the last row with data. That is what X is holding. Now Y is not holding sheet 1, so we just have to do this, clear the syntax here. We don't want to set Y to anything because we are not declaring it as what? Worksheet, so we clear that. Now after this, we want to use a loop to loop through our data set, okay, and be able to what? Get what we want. Now, what is Y standing for? What variable is Y? What is Y doing? Y stands for the various columns here. So this is Y1, this is Y2, this is Y3, this is Y4. So we use Y. We set Y to the various columns. Okay, Y1, Y2, Y3, Y4. So far now we have these 4 columns. So Y4 from Y1 to Y4. Okay, good. Take note of that. Now we want to do something. Okay, so we say what? For Y equal to what? I'll explain that. For Y equal to what? 2 to X. And we say what? Next what? Y. If you can remember, anytime we say what? We mention a for loop, we say what? Next that particular what? Variable. So don't forget of that. Good. So we say what? Next Y. Now for what? Y equal to what? 2 to X. Where is the 2? We are talking of this particular column where the full name is. So right now what I want you to know is that you should know that we're going to set using what? The full name. Okay, we're going to set using what? Full name, not just full name. We're going to use this to search, not the ID, not the gender, not the class, not any other criteria, but the full name. So we're going to refer to what? Y2. That is that. We want to begin the search from here. Okay, now let's go to our center. So we'll say what? For Y equal to what? 2 to X, meaning what? 2 is the what? The column 2. The X is what? The last row with data. So we want to set from here, the last row with data. This is column 2 to X, to last row with data, because we can't set where there is no data. Take note of that. Now we want to do something with that. What do we want to do? We want to check a condition. We're going to use if statement to do that. So if sheet1 dot what? Cells, just cells, each of the cells into bracket Y comma what? 2 and bracket close dot value. I'll explain that equal to U case. You now know what U case is all about, meaning uppercase into brackets text box 3. Our search bar that we created is what? Text box 3 dot text, or I'll explain, don't worry. Okay, so say or sheets 1 dot cells into brackets Y comma 2 bracket close dot what? Sheet 1 dot cells Y2 dot value equal to what? L case, meaning lowercase. Sorry, lowercase of what? Text box 6. I'll explain, don't worry. Text box 3 rather. Text box 3, that is a search button into brackets. So text box 3 dot text, okay, into bracket. Then something should happen. So we say what? And if, then I'll explain that. Perfect. If and then and if. What I'm saying is it's very simple. If sheet 1 dot cells, where is sheet 1? We are talking of our database sheet here. Let's go back. Dot cells Y2. Which one is the Y2 dot value? We are talking of what? This particular column Y2 here, the column 2. The values here from what? That is why we use the for loop. The for loop is now checking from what?
first data here to the last data. That's what we say for y equal to what? 2 to x, 2 to the last row with data. We want to search. So how are we doing a search? We're saying what? If sheet 1 dot cells, if the database sheet, the cells there, y2, that is a column 2 there, the value is there, dot value equal to what? It matches with what is in the sheet. What? Sorry, it matches what is in the what? Text box 3. That is our search box. Okay, let's confirm that. If it matches with what we are searching, which is what text box 3. Now, whenever we click this, we want to return that person's data here. We have already done this in our previous lessons where we were working on the cell-based form. So this shouldn't be a problem. Good. Let me quickly go back here. If sheet 1 dot cell, okay, y2 dot value, in that column there, if any of the values there matches with what UCase, either uppercase of what is in the word text box 3, that is on the user form, the set bar dot text, or sheet 1 dot cells y2 the same range. The value, any of the values that matches what lowercase. So now we want to use either whether we enter the data using what upper cases, we want to be able to search using both upper cases and the lower cases. That is why we use this particular what or operator to catch the two conditions, whether capital or small. We should be able to return the data code. Or sheet 1 dot cells y2 dot value equal to what lowercase into bracket sheet what text box 3 dot text, the same search bar. Then we want to do something. What we want to do, we want to return whatever we have on our whatever we have from our database sheet. So we say what if that is the case, then what we want to return after this, we want to return everything back to this, this, and then this. Okay, if whatever is here matches whatever is in the data set, if the name we type here matches with any of the names in that particular column, we want to return that person's ID, full name, the gender, and then the class. So take note of that. So we say what then in that case we are writing to the text boxes now, because we are returning something back there. So what text box 1 equal to what that text box 1 should be holding what sheet 1 dot cells into bracket y comma 1 into bracket dot what value. Perfect. If that is the case, if the condition here is met, if whatever we type in the set box, whether capital or small, is equal to any of the names in the A column on the database sheet, I want to return that person's what? This line says that we want to return that person's what? ID, because ID is in the text box 1. On the sheet 1, the cells is what? Y, which is what? The column 1, the first column, dot value, the value there. Okay, so that is that. Now let's check what do we have there. So far we already have just one. Okay, so now let's go back to this and run this and see. So with this single line of code, it can only return one thing, and that is what? The user's ID. Let's run it and see. So I want to search for the first person, and that is Lami. Okay, so let's search for, okay, we can do that whether capital or small, because we've taken care of all that. So sorry, let's do that in the search bar. Okay, perfect. So we click on search, so we have just the ID. Okay, let's try it in lowercase 2 and see. So search, we still have that. Let's try Aziz in lowercase as well. Aziz, so you have 3. So let's try Musa in uppercase and see. Sorry, so you should have 2 also there. So whichever we type it, you should have it up and running. So now let's move ahead and get that of the name. Now we are done with the line of code we just added there is for the ID. Now we need the full name, gender, as well as the class. So let's figure out that and proceed. We can close this for now and then we move on. So what we just have to do is to copy this, Control C to copy, Control V to paste, then we do the necessary editing. Okay, so it's going to be just y2. So with y2 we have that of the name there. So if we should run it now and search Aziz, okay, we should have okay, that should be text box 2. Okay, I mistakenly failed to edit that, so let's figure out that. It should be text box 2. Perfect. Good, perfectly. Now let's proceed and run it again and see. So we have, let's check Aziz now. Perfect. So you have the ID as well as the name here. Now we need that of the gender as well as the class. So let's do that. So with the gender, we're going to use the option button. You know, the male is OPT1 and then the female is OPT2. So let's take note of that. We're going to use if statement, but we have two options. It can either be male or female. If it is male, what should happen? If it is female, what should happen? So if statement comes in here. So let's deal with that. Good. So here we're going to make decision with that. So we say if, okay, sorry. So we say if sheet 1, okay, dot cells sheet 1 dot cells into brackets y comma 3 is in the third column, okay, dot value is equal to sorry, is male, then we want something to happen. And if value there we have, if the value here within this column, okay, is male, then we want to return male. So with that we set the male to be true so that the male button will be selected. So let's deal with that. Let's go back here. So you say what? Then you say what? The male is OPT1. So OPT1, sorry, OPT1 dot value equal to what? True. It means that one should be selected. Okay, that is this. If the value there is male, then OPT1, which is that of the male, should be selected. Else, so we have NF here. So this, so we copy this and then edit to get out of the second option. So we paste it here. Okay. So to do that, so we say what if sheet 1 of cells y the same column. Okay, it's now female. Then OPT2, that is the name. The second option, that is that of the female, should now be selected. So let's run it and try it and see. So let's just set for one person and proceed so that we don't delay that much time here. So it's set. So let me is a female. Okay, now let's confirm that of the male too and see. Okay, let's look for Musa. Musa as well is male. So selected and everything is working perfectly. So now let's move on to the third option, that is the class. And with the class, you know, we use the combo box. Okay, so the class is what? The combo box. So we are going to make reference to that in our syntax. So sorry, we check on here. So we say, good, so we have that here. So with the class, you say what? Combo box 1. Sorry. Combo box. Sorry. Combo box 1 dot value. Sorry. Combo box 1 equal to sheet 1 dot 1 dot cells dot sorry dot cells into brackets y is in the fourth column. Okay, y4, sorry, or dot value. Perfect with that. Good. So now if we should run it, we should have that one to up and running. So let's check for just one person, and then we have, I'm missing P1. Let's try checking for Aziz also. So Aziz in P2, or that one is also working. So I think our search criteria is now working perfectly without any problem, without any stress. Now let's move on to deal with that of the update option. Okay. Now with the update, the idea is that we want whatever changes we've done, it should take effect. It should take effect. It should replace whatever we have here. Supposing Lami is a male and then we decided to add female, we would want to change that. So to do that, all we need to do is to update. And once we update and change Lami's gender to male, and then click on the update button, it should replace the female here. Simple as that, and maintain the rest of the items the way they are. Okay, so that is that. We are going to return whatever we have in the text box after updating straight back to this particular sheet. Okay, so that is that. So let's work around that. So we double click on the update button and then we begin to write the syntax. So here we go here. So we're going to dimension some few variables, then we proceed. So we say, sorry. So we say dim
dim x as long, okay, then we dim y as also what, long. Perfect. Now we need to set the value for x, which is going to be used to determine the last row with data. So we say x is equal to sheet1 dot range. Which of the range? That is the first column, that is column A. And rows dot count, and tab it over, bracket close dot end, tab it over, bracket open, Excel up, just close the bracket, then dot row. So this will determine the last row with data. So that is it. So now what we need to do is we're going to use a for loop to loop through the various columns and rows and check and try to search for the data we would want to update or do some changes on. So to do that, we're going to use for loop. So we say for y equal to x. You say next y. Don't forget of that. It's very important. What we are saying is that for y equal to what? 2. Where is the 2 coming from? This is the 2. The row where the data start from, and then to x, the last row with data. So x can be any of these values. If that is where the data ends, then that is what the x will be. So take note of that. So we quickly go back. So after looping through this, we want to do something. So what we want to do, we would want to make some decisions. So we're going to use if statement to do that. We would want to decide after searching, and then we do the necessary changes. So in that case, the data is now on the form. So once we click on the update button, it should replace what we have on the sheet. So that is that. So say what if, just as we did when we're writing syntax for the search criteria, the same thing. So if sheet 1, so we can just copy that line of code here for that of the search. Okay. Okay. With this one, we were dealing with the what's the name, lower and uppercase. So let's just write this also. So it's if sheet1 dot cells, okay, into brackets, we're going to use the names y2 dot value equal to text box 1 dot value. Then we want to do something, so we say and if. Okay, and what we are saying is that if sheet1 dot cells y2 dot value is equal to what, text box, this should be text box, this should be text box, our search box is text box 3, right? So it's text box 3 dot value. What it means is that what we have in the y2, that is the names column. If one of the names matches with what is in the search box, then we would want to replace everything we have for that particular person, including the changes we've made. So let me just go to the sheet. So supposing the name matches with, let me just clear this now. Let's try some options somewhere. Supposing the name matches with this, okay, that is Lami, and then maybe the mistake or the correction we've made is here. So what is going to happen is this: one is going to be replaced with the same one. It's not going to be changed. Lami is going to be the same thing. Then the changes we've made on the form based on the gender, provided if it is female, maybe if it's, maybe let's say Lami is male, then we put female. It means we need to change or do the changes on the form. So once that is done, and then we click on that, so it's going to be replaced. It's going to replace the female here, and then the rest will be the way they are. But if you do any other changes, then it's also going to replace what you have on the sheet. So basically, that is that. So then something should happen. What should happen? So we say what? Sheet1 dot cells, just tab it over into brackets, y comma 1 dot
dot value is equal to what? Text box 1 dot value. Perfect. So what we are saying is that if one of the name matches with whatever or what we have in the search box, then we want to return that person's details on the form. Okay, we want whatever we have in the first column, that is the ID, to appear in the ID box, that is the text box 1. Okay, whatever we have in the second column, that is the name, should appear there, and everything should appear there. So that is that. So we are now doing the comparison. Once that is done, then we then go ahead and do any of the changes we have on the form. I'll explain further. Let's move forward. So this is going to return just the ID. So with only the ID, I don't think we have to do any changes there. So let's add that of the name column, so that we can do some changes there. So Control C to copy this, and then Control V to paste. So names in the second column, so that'll be Y2, okay. Then it's going to be in the text box 2. So that is that. So once, okay, now let's run this and see. So let's try searching for Lami. Okay, search for Lami. So let's assume that the name is Lami Hawa. Okay, now we've just done some changes here. So once we click on update, it should do the necessary changes here for us, and then one will remain one there, P1 will remain P1 there, and then the female will remain female. But suppose if we decide to change this one to, then it will replace the P1 here. Let's click on update and see something. So you can see that Lami how has been added to that. Okay, so basically that is that how has been added to that. But now we are still seeing the every details here. So we'll work around that once we proceed. So we'll get there. So that is that. So supposing maybe we do some changes on this one as well. So let's assume that the same Lami, we would want to change the class. It's a mistake. Lami is supposed to be in P5, so we add that. Okay, P4. So once we click on that, it should okay, we haven't added that line, so it will not work. So we need to add that line first. So let's proceed. So the next one is going to be that of the gender. Okay, the gender, the gender, we're going to use if statement to do that. So that we say what if OPT1, that is the option 1, which is for male. Okay, dot value equal to true. I'll explain that. Then sorry, why should I even put equal to true? Then sheet 1 dot cells into brackets, that will be in the third column, right? So we have y comma 3 dot value equal to, it's going to be a string, so we have male. Perfect. Then we have if. I'll explain that now. But what we are saying is this: if opt1 dot value equal to true, what we are saying is that if option 1, this one, the value here is selected, this true means that this particular button here is selected. So that means it's true. Once it's selected, it's true. If this one is selected, this one is deselected. If this one is selected, this one is true and this one is false. This one is selected, it will be true and this one will be false. Okay, so that is that. Let's take note of that. If that one is also selected, then it means that we want to replace it the way it is, unless we decide to change. Maybe supposing the person is a male, then we added female, so we want to do the changes. Once that changes is done and we hit on update, it's going to replace that one. So that is that. So let's proceed there and then continue. Let's continue from there. So let's just copy this and have the second option that we see. Control C to copy, then Control V to paste. So we need to do the editing here. So OPT2, let's have the female. Perfect. So I think it's working now. So let's just go ahead and then add the last one. That is the okay. Let's run this and see first before we proceed. Okay, let's run it now. Check. So now we've added that of the ID, full name, and then the gender. Okay, so let's check this.
Let's search for Lami Hawa. Okay. Okay. I mean, okay, so we search for that. It's not returning Lami Hawa for me here. What's the problem? Okay, let me try Musa and see what's going to happen here. Musa is searched. How come Lami Hawa is not being searched? I'll figure out that. Okay, don't worry about that. Trying to search Lami Hawa is not working for us. Okay. I'll check that. It should work. I'll figure out that. Okay, let's proceed. So we've just searched for Musa. So let's assume that Musa is what's the name? Is male. So you can see that the male is selected. So that is that. Supposing Musa is not a male but rather a female, then we do this. So once we click on update, it should change Musa to what female. So that is that. That is working. Perfect. Let me just okay, we'll come back to that once we. So let's add the fourth option, that is the class. Okay, so let's check on that with the class. So we're going to say that and if yes, so that one is going to be sheet 1 dot cells into brackets was y for dot sorry a dot value equal to combo box 1 dot value. Okay, combo box 1 dot value sheet 1 dot cells y for dot value equal to combo box 1 dot value. So let's check that as well and see. So let's run it now. So let's search for Aziz. Okay, search for Aziz. Okay, so also have that of Aziz now appearing here. So let's try to edit that. Aziz is too small. Aziz is in KG1. So let's edit that and we have that updated here. So I think it's working. Once again, this giving me headache. Now let's proceed. Now we need a success message once the data is maybe submitted. Okay, success message like that. So I think you can do that by yourself. So this is going to be very simple. Let's proceed and check on that. It's just one line of code. So we're going to say that I think this should be here. Okay, so you say what once the data is submitted, it's a message box. What should be the message? Oh, sorry, it's a data updated successfully. Okay, perfect. That is that. And then once okay, let's check on that first before we move on. Let's check on something like Musa search. Sorry, here search. Okay, so Musa is in E6 update, data updated successfully. It's working. So we need to clear this once update is done. Okay, so to do that, you already know the line of code. So we just click on, we just call on a okay, we haven't done that yet. If we were to write the syntax for the reset, we just would have just called that. So let me also do that so that you understand something a bit different from the usual way that we've been doing. So to do that, let's pause here with that of the update. I'll be coming back to it in the GFees. But for now, let's deal with this so that we just call this particular function inside update and that will reset the form. Once the update is done and then everything is done successfully, then we call on this function and then so let's work around this function. So we double click on this one. Sorry, double click on this one. So that is the reset. So with the reset, it's going to be something like
First of all, unload me, sorry, let's unload me rather, yes, unload me, sorry, perfect. Then this will just close, what's the name, this will close the form, okay, and once the form is closed, we would want to do what, reopen it again. So first of all, you close it, and once it's closed and then reopen, it will reset itself, okay. So to open it again, we say what, user form, the name of the form is what, user form 1, okay. So we say user form 1 dot show. Perfect. So that is that. So that is the work of the reset. Okay. So let's run this and see something. Let's try entering something here. Let's click on that and see. So you see that it cleared the form. Okay. So and then you click on this, it will do that. Now that is that. We are done with that of the reset. Now let's quickly go back to update again. So what I'm saying is this: once data is updated successfully, now we need to call the reset function. Okay. So we say call, we just call, it's a function, right? So we just call it. This is VBA. So like we stated before, it says human readable. That's what we write in English language. That is that. So we say call CMD reset. Okay, perfect. And then I think let me just check that function well. Then we call it, well, just copy the name the way it is. Sorry. This, just copy it the way it is. So we are just calling the reset function. So once the data is submitted, then this function will be called, and then what it's going to respond to is that it's going to clear everything for us. Created successfully. Perfect. So that is that. So let's close all these gaps a bit. Yeah. Good. Perfect. Let's run our form once again. So now let's try searching for Aziz. Then we search for it. Once it's searched for, so the next thing we're going to do is to try updating something. Aziz class, this is supposed to be in P5. So let's click on that, update, reset the form for us once and for all. So basically, that is that. Now let's check on that of the close. Okay, so double click. You can guess the syntax. It's just going to be simple. Say unload me. Simple as that. It will close the form for us. Once you click on this, it closes the form. Simple as that. Good. Now we are left with that of what, the delete. Okay, so let's check on that. With the delete, we would want to just delete before we delete again. First of all, we just need to search. Okay, so it's going to be similar to that of what's the name, the search, as well as the add center. We're going to be declaring some few variables there as well. So let's just double click on delete. So we start writing the codes for that. Let's give space here. I don't like copying and paste. Okay, now we need these two variables. So let me just copy them. Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And then now we need X to determine the last true date. So this going to be copied and then we paste it here. So we need the for loop, okay, and then do the comparison once again. So if, let me go for that of the update, okay, the update syntax is update. Okay, so if this one is okay, we need this one. Control C to copy. Then I go to this one, right? This is delete. Oh, okay. First of all, I need the for loop for this one. Control C to copy this. Control V to paste. And then say next Y. So you understand what we are doing. First of all, we just declare X as long, and then the X is what we set here, which is to determine the last row with data, and Y is for the various columns. Okay. We're now looping through the various columns from the first row where the data start from, that is 2 to what X, the last row with data, and the next one. You understand? This shouldn't be a problem. So if that happens, then we want to just compare whatever we have in the search box to whatever we have in the names column. That is to whose data are we going to delete. So it depends upon the name in the search box and the name in that particular name column there. So the comparison is there. So once we get the person, then we click on delete and that person's data is deleted, and then the rows are shifted upwards to readjust themselves to take a shape the way it is. It's how it's supposed to be. So that is that. So the next line of action is there. So once we are done with that, so we want to compare. So to the comparison text here, I just need this one. If sheet 1.cells, blah 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 blah, and we get that here. You see, so we paste this here. So if sheet 1.cells y2.value equal to whatever we have in the text box, then we want to do something. We want to delete. So we say rows dot, so rows y, that is y column, okay, dot delete. This will delete that person's what details, okay, from there. And after deleting the details, we just have to make sure that the cells shift to replace, like to adjust themselves for them to be in the normal way, okay. Shift, then we have the colon here, then equal to, then xl up x l is going to be something small, xl up xl, okay, up something like this, perfect. And then we have end if here, perfect, easy as anything, perfect. So that is that. What we are saying is that if sheet 1 dot cells y column 2 dot value equal to what text box 3 dot value, then we want to do something. What we want to do, we want to what, delete that person's details. So once we're able to search for that person's data, we hit on delete, and then we should be able to delete that person's details without no problem, without any stress. Now, to do that, once we do the search, we want the delete button. There are some buttons that we are going to deactivate when we search, just as we did in the cell-based form. Okay, there are some buttons that we need to deactivate. We don't want them to be activated so that the user can mistakenly, or maybe the user may mistakenly click on them, which will mess up everything for us. So for us as a programmer, so as the developers, to take control over those things, to guide the user perfectly, to collect the data the way we want it. So we have to work around all that. Okay, we have to think for them. We have to think for them there. So that is what we're trying to do here. So what we're going to do now is, after the search, we need to make sure that the delete button is enabled. So we say what, me dot cmd, that is delete, cmd delete dot the visibility of visible equal to true. So once we search, we want the delete to be true, and then once, well, as we are going to as a delete, we don't want the update button to be active, so we want it to be deactivated. So with that one, we say what, we just copy this, so say me.cmd update update.visible equal to, guess what, false as well, perfect. So that is that. Now once the data is what, deleted, we would want to receive success message and then also reset the form. So to do that, let's deal with that of the message box first. So we say what, data deleted successfully. It's going to be a string, so we say data
deleted successfully. Okay, perfect, as simple as that. So now once that is done, we want to what? Reset the form. So we call on what? Let me just copy that and then I think good. We call on CMD reset click. Okay, we call on that and then Control C. And delete. Good. Perfect. So I think everything is working now perfectly without any problem, without any stress. So let's run our form now and see. So let's assume we want to delete Aziz. Okay, so we search for Aziz first. Aziz is now searched. So once we click on delete, then we delete it perfectly. Everything is working without any problem, without any stress and all that. Okay, so I think basically that is that. So let's see if there are some buttons we would have to also disable, and then so once we search, we don't want to. Okay, let's run it and see something. Okay, when we search, what happened? Let's search for Musa and see. So once Musa is searched for, we talk of in after searching, we don't want in our syntax. Remember, we don't want the updates to be enabled, but then it's still enabled, right? Okay, that is when we are deleting, rather that is when the update shouldn't be enabled. Okay, but once we search for details, we don't want to maybe maybe add excuse me please. Gosh. Once we search, we don't want this to be enabled. Okay, so we will have to maybe deactivate it. So let's check on that first. So that will be in the search syntax. Let's check on that. Search. This is search. Okay, so once data is searched, we want to disable that. Then let's see something good between the lines here. Okay. Okay. Okay, this should be here now. So what we're going to do right now is we need to make sure that the add button is still activated. So we set invisibility towards false. Okay, so we say cmd add dot visible equal to false. Okay, so let's run it now and see. Let's run it now and see. Okay, so let's search for Musa. Okay, so it's gone. To not be visible because we don't want the user to mistakenly click on it to re-add another thing again. So it's now gone. So basically that is that. So I think perfect. Okay, so let's close it and then relaunch the form now again and see. Perfect. So once we search, it's going to be invisible once again. So I think our form has now taken its shape and then everything is working. So we'd like to end this tutorial here. So you can go ahead and keep practicing and try to understand the syntax and how they work. In our next lesson, where we're going to talk of data validation, we're going to validate our what's the name various text boxes to make sure that the right input that we want we get. But before we even do that, why am I even skipping this? Let me just once again search for Lami again. Lami.
Hawa, okay. It's not responding. Hawa. Okay. This was going to happen. Let's try something here and see something. Let's do this together. Let's clear what we have here. Clear contents. Perfect. Now let's try entering new data. So Hussein Razak is male, class B, and we add. We have that. So we add Shida Rahman, female, E5, and we add the effect. Let's add the third person. Then Suli Ali, male, class E1, added. And the last female, 2 male, 2 female. Nadia Abdullah, male, class. Perfect. So now let's begin searching them and see what's going to be now. So let's try searching for Hussein Razak. Yeah, it's working. Let's search it in lower cases and see. Okay, let's search for the next person in lower cases. Rashida Rahman. Okay, that's it. So let's search. It's also working. And what's the problem? Sule Ali. It's also working. Let's search for Nadia Abdullah. Perfect. So everything is working. I don't know why this previous one wasn't working. So I think our form has now taken its shape and everything is working. So in our next lesson, we're going to talk of data validation. I say thank you very much for watching, and then bye for now.